Hello, everybody. Hello, Ray.
Hello, Anja. It's a privilege to be here again today.
It's a privilege for me to have you again as my guest. And for all of you who are new here with us, I'm Anja and I'm kind of a facilitator for Venusian spirituality. And my guest is again my good friend, Dr. Raymond Keller. He is also known as Cosmic Ray. And he's an author and he's the Venus historian, the historian of the Venusians. So we have much to say, much to share today, and we hope you take the time to listen to the beautiful teachings that we want to talk about today. Of course, you know, disclaimer, this is our perspective. This is how we feel that it's true. This is our pleasure to talk about these teachings and to share them with you. So we hope you find a value in it. You have your inner compass, your inner guidance system. You feel what is true and what is right for you. So, and for the beginning, we just spoke about the questions, right? Ray, you received specific questions from a woman. Her name is Solara,
Oh,
you said, and you would like to
yes.
answer these questions.
Okay, we'll answer Solara's questions today. After coming out with the Gospels of Thomas and Mary Magdalene, many questions of a spiritual nature have been sent to me by various people, and of course, the book is available through Discus Publishing and also available on
Yeah,
Amazon.com.
it's here in the shelf behind me.
And so we encourage everybody to read that for some of the secret and esoteric teachings of Jesus the Christ, um, Thomas the Apostle, and Mary Magdalene. Uh, and perhaps it might aid you in your own quest for spiritual knowledge, which actually is gnosis. That's the Greek word for knowledge. But let's go to Solara's question. She lives uh, a short distance from the where they just had the train derailment and the chemical spill over there that's been in the news um, um, lately. So we pray for all the people that were suffering and involved in that, being in that area. But let's go to her question. Oh, she says, thanks, my cosmic friend. Uh, trust you and your wife are doing good and always safe. Yes. Uh, the truth is coming to set us free. However, the pure truth is that we are of the light, one in the universe, as you well know, of course. I have been doing a lot of purging and healing physically and emotionally, um, and so have not yet read your um, completely through your book on Mary Magdalene. On one of a call from Eli, a friend recently, it was reported that only about 13% of the Bible is true scripture. What is your knowing on that? Hugs to you, my dear friend Solara. Okay. So what I was saying to her is that most of the Bible is actually the Old Testament. So 65% of all the books that are in the Bible are in the Old Testament. And when we look at the Old Testament and the New Testament in comparison, we see that in the Old Testament, it's primarily written for the nation of Israel. So it's rather nationalistic and ethnocentric in its perspective, vis-a-vis the peoples of the world in all the books of the Old Testament. But Jesus's messages, I would have to say, on the other hand, are very pure and focused on love for everyone. So, whether they're Jew or Gentile or wherever they, whatever they come from, whatever their background. And we know from the Gnostic text that Jesus and Thomas as well had also traveled through India and learned many things there that were revealed in the Gnostic in the Gnostic text. So they're more open, and so we could say that the New Testament was the more enlightening book. Historically, as far as the development of the nation of Israel and everything goes, I'm sure many of the events in the Old Testament are true, but we have to look at the perspective from which they were written in and took place. So given that 65% is the Old Testament, then we have to look at the total amount of pages and information there, and then using spiritual discernment to decide what parts of it would carry over and be relevant today. There are over 600 laws and things that even Jesus repudiated when he was alive. Like according to the Old Testament, they could stone people for adultery. They had all these laws about dietary restrictions and so forth. And Jesus repeated all of these laws about the Sabbath and said that, there are only two basic commandments that we need to worry about: love God and love your neighbor. That's it. So given that, I would say that that statement is probably, that Eli made to you, is probably true, although I don't know that I would fix it at the 13%. That seems just like an arbitrary number, but definitely the New Testament should be the guide for Christians in the modern world, in my opinion. Okay.
Thank you, Ray.
Oh, you're welcome.
One additional question. You said there are just two laws or two rules that one should really care about. That was love God and love your neighbor. What about love yourself?
Oh, yes, it's love your neighbor as yourself. As you love yourself is what it actually says.
So we have in this love concept three. We have God, the neighbor, and myself.
Yes.
So we have the Holy Trinity.
Yes.
I love God and I love my neighbor as I love myself. I love myself and I love my neighbor and I love God. So in this house, this triangle, I am love.
And you make a good point there, Anya, because in the Bible itself, of course, John wrote that God is love,
Mhm.
and then in another place, he also defined God as spirit. God is spirit, and those that worship in spirit and in truth. So that this is a very important concept, an elevated concept for uh, for humankind to follow. I hope you're doing well, and then the people on the Ohio-Pennsylvania border, that they get that ecological disaster cleaned up as quickly as possible for the safety and health of all concerned.
Oh, you already sent it to her? That was an email, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, wonderful.
So anybody that's watching our show, um, please connect with Venus Spirit if you have any questions, and Anya and I will be very happy to try and answer them for you.
Yes, exactly. Venus Spirit is my website. I'm going to um, add it here in the YouTube description, of course, is venusspirit.com. Love. We will always, in various versions, mention love, of course, because it is eventually everything and all that is important, because it is all that is. But it's hard to really get it because it is way beyond a mental concept. It is the ultimate truth. I mean, but the mind can't really get it. It's something that you can only experience within the heart.
Yes, and we're so involved in all of our business of surviving in this material
Yeah.
world, making a living and getting through this incarnation as best we can. And sometimes we move our eyes off the prize, and lose track that we are sparks of the divinity, that we are love ourselves.
Yeah.
The sooner we get closer into it, the better off we'll be. Which leads us into our subject for today, which is the Oversoul and
Yeah.
various aspects of the Oversoul, including uh, twin flames, soulmates, and so forth. So we're going to discuss these things today. And in preparation for it, I was looking through a book by one of my favorite authors, Paramahansa Yogananda. He was the founder of the Self-Realization Fellowship when he came from India to the United States at the turn of around the turn of the last century. But Anya and I were talking about um, various aspects before this subject before we came on the air, and I happened to flip um, my my book is very well annotated
Mhm.
on the margins because I love this author, and his master and mentor, his teacher was Messiah, and he was a great Hindu teacher. And he said, Yogananda said of his master that his master's life, that the manifestations of divine play occurred on occasions important and unimportant. In God's eyes, nothing is large or small. Were it not for his perfect nicety in constructing the tiny atom, could the skies wear the proud structures of Vega or Arcturus? Distinctions of important and unimportant are surely unknown to the Lord, lest for want of a pin, the cosmos collapse. And I wrote on the margin to that, even the seeming small is significant. And when you throw a rock into a lake, you see the ripples, and the ripples just go on and on. It's the same thing with like radio waves. Once they leave the earth, they go on and on into an infinity. And if somebody has a sensitive enough receiver, they can even receive our radio and television signals on a distant star. So everything we do and everything we experience is not, no matter how small you think it is, has a great significance. So make the best, make the best of your time on Earth, and seek for happiness. Thomas Jefferson said, America was founded on the idea of the pursuit of happiness. So that doesn't mean you'll find it right away, but it's I think even just the pursuit of happiness will make you happy. So I mean, these are important ideas. But let me share them. There's two ideas that Paramahansa Yogananda had about the Oversoul, divine truths that he expressed in this book. And so I'm outlining everything there, and it's okay. This is what he said. Professor Jules Boyce of the Sorbonne in France said in 1929 that the French psychologists have investigated and accorded recognition to the superconscious, which in its grandeur is the exact opposite of the subconscious mind as conceived of by Sigmund Freud, and which comprises the faculties that make man really man and not just a super animal. The French savant explained that the awakening of the higher consciousness is not to be confused with coyism or hypnotism. The existence of a superconscious mind has long been recognized philosophically, being in reality the oversoul, the superconscious mind, that we're actually connected to the universe through a built-in superconsciousness that God put there so that we could be in communion with the stars and even the infinity of inhabitants on other worlds. So that the Oversoul was spoken of by Emerson, but only recently has it been recognized scientifically. In the Oversoul, Emerson wrote, "A man is the facade of a temple wherein all wisdom and all good abide. What we commonly call man, the eating, drinking, planting, and counting man, does not, as we know him, represent himself, but misrepresents himself. On the outward appearance, we're swarmed by all the clutter of the material world, and we lose track of that super consciousness. Him we do not respect, but the soul, whose organ he is, would he let it appear through his actions, would make our knees bend." So we all have the divine within us. And if we look around at the people in our lives, we'll recognize the face of God and angels in them. So we lie open on one side to the depths of spiritual nature, to all the attributes of God. And this is very important. Now, there's another part in Paramahansa Yogananda's book where he talks about this, and I like to share that with you. And that is page 144. Okay, is our conscious and subconscious being is crowned by a superconsciousness. Rabbi Israel H. Leventhal pointed out in a lecture in New York. Many years ago, the English psychologist F.W.H. Myers suggested that hidden in the deep of our being is a rubbish heap as well as a treasure house. In contrast to the psychology that centers all its researches on the subconscious in man's nature, the new psychology of the superconsciousness focuses its attention upon the treasure house, the region that alone can explain the great, unselfish, heroic deeds of men. And that's very interesting to me because Jesus, the master teacher and psychologist, said that where your heart is, there you'll find the treasure. So it's where we focus our attention, where we focus on our emotions, that eventually we find the treasure that's hidden deep within us. So in this section here, I wrote a little comment on the side. It says, true psychology searches for the treasure house. And so these are the things that make us happy and the things that make us spiritually aware, to be in contact. Now, Tuesday Lobsang Rampa was an Englishman, and I write about him in who is actually a great spirit from Tibet, who was born again, kind of like a walk-in into this English gentleman, and he wrote many books on metaphysical principles from the perspective of Mayanara Buddhism in Tibet, whereas Paramahansa Yogananda writes from a Hindu perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But he also wrote about the Oversoul, and Anja has an interesting drawing to help explain the concept of the Oversoul from the books and literature produced by Tuesday Lobsang Rampa.
He called it actually Overself. I guess it's the same. It's the same concept, you know. I'm sharing this illustration now. Okay, so this is the illustration that I copied from this page about Lobsang Rampa, and I feel this is a pretty good, the depiction of how we can imagine this. And it reminded me so hugely of your own experience, Ray, because you told us in the lectures and that you had an experience of having met your own oversoul during your near-death experience. When was that again? 2014, 2015, right?
Yes, that was in 2015. I was in the Veterans Hospital in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Would you like to tell us, because you know these I'm showing it again later when I'm editing the video. I'm going to keep this here so that people can see it. It's so because it is showing these different strings, and it's showing these various costumes for us. I mean, it's not costumes, it's real clothes that these people during different times were having on their bodies. And it, of course, you can also see that they're not only men or only women, but it's both sexes that the oversoul is connected with or has been connected with. But this thing is, of course, it's all happening at the same time. So we are now also going into this time thing, right? Because in the India perspective, we have this feeling of, okay, this was maybe in 1520 and the next incarnation in 18 something and the next incarnation in 19 something, and sometimes a woman, sometimes a man, and then you can also even imagine their future incarnations. From the perspective of the oversoul, it's all happening at the same time, right?
Yes.
So tell us about your experience, please.
In the celestial realms, everything exists in the now. Mm-hmm. There's no past or future. It's all occurring in the now. And of course, the oversoul is a spiritual being who transcends both time and space. And so the depiction shows clothing from many different cultures and styles, and many different racial and ethnic backgrounds. So it's very, very important to understand that concept. In my own experience, I had my heart removed from my body because I had a quadruple bypass surgery. And they actually stopped my heart to work on it, and then had to get it started with a electric stimulation. But I was put in for 8.5 hours into a life support machine, and while they worked on my heart. And during that time, I had a vision, and I met my oversoul. It was going to be time for me to move on, to go on, and I was taken up above the earth into a circle of light, like a ring of fire. And when I would look up or down, I couldn't see anything but the stars and the earth and space. And I was very disoriented and very, very dizzy. And so I held on to the ring because I didn't want to fall off into space and be lost in space.
Let me ask you one question in between. When you say I met my oversoul, but you were out of your body, then who is I?
That was my consciousness.
And the oversoul is also your consciousness.
Yes, the higher consciousness.
So it is the consciousness that is more the Raymond Keller consciousness?
Yes, and I wasn't prepared for anything that I was seeing or experiencing. So I still operated within the framework of my consciousness, my memories of the current earth life. But I looked to my right, and then I looked to my left, and I saw this gentleman look more like a teenager. Looked like when I was just a teenager, like 14 years old, and but he was wearing different costumes and so forth from different time periods. And he said, "I'm your oversoul, and I'm here to make you an offer. You can return to Venus, or you can go back to Earth and finish the book that you're writing, Venus Rising. a concise history of the second planet, which in the German is Venus Austegende, which is
Yeah.
there.
It's so cute how you say it. It's aufsteigende Venus, but it's fine. Yes. Aufsteigende Venus. First aufsteigende and then Venus.
Oh, I guess I'm thinking in Spanish.
Yes.
Well, anyway, so I chose to because I realized when I started writing that book that it was very important to have this information about our nearest celestial neighbor, because nobody wrote about it from the perspective of the Venusians, a history of the interaction and relations between Venus and the Earth. I realized it was very important, and I also realized that that's why when I was up there with my Oversoul, that's why I came here to this planet in my first incarnation, which was in the 1st century BC. And so I realized that I had to go back and do this. And that was 2015. And now it's 8 years later. And not only have I written the Venus Rising book, but many other books beside, all dealing with the very theme of Venus and the Venusians. That's why it's such an honor for me to be on the Venus Spirit website with you, and also this program to share this information. So we're all here to accomplish something. We don't know what it is, but we will evolve and grow into it, and eventually it will be revealed to our consciousness through our superconsciousness, through our oversoul. And if we're persistent, and because persistence pays off, and don't give up on it.
Thank you for sharing this really extraordinary experience. It's do you have any further insights, or can you share more about what has been revealed to you about the truth, the overself itself? What is the oversoul, or the overself and the oversoul? We now would say is the same, right? It's the same.
Oh yes, I would say that.
Can you have an idea on how to put this into words?
Yes. It's spiritual. It's a spiritual phenomena, but it occurs to everyone, and all of the individuals that we saw in the Tuesday Lobsang Rampa diagram. All of those individuals are are aspects of the higher self, and through our higher self, we learn about life here on Earth, and even Paramahansa Yogananda said that extends not only to the Earth but to other planets. George Adamski, one of the early contactees, was also a follower of Paramahansa Yogananda, who like Paramahansa Yogananda, Adamski had a metaphysical school called the Order of Tibet in Laguna Beach, California, starting back in 1935, where he studied all these high metaphysical contacts. In fact, a lot of contactees are knowledgeable on these subjects as students of theosophy. I myself am a member of the Theosophical Society. And so these things are very, very important into our spiritual understanding and our growth, and open many doors of revelation that were previously closed. You know, you have to knock and it shall be open unto you. So these are just great. We were talking before about these aspects and how the oversoul experiences life in the material world through us, through our bodies, as aspects of the oversoul. And then we were talking about the various metaphysical constructs and ideas, such as soulmates and twin flames. So let's go into that, because I know many people have asked you questions about it.
Mm-hmm.
As Omnek has also taught about it, and I'll let's start with the before we get into the twin flames. Let's go into the soulmates.
Yeah. When we look at the overself or the oversoul, it's kind of, I mean, you know, I'm just starting to study this all. This is really, I'm not claiming that I really know. I'm just claiming that I'm very curious and that I love these metaphysical truth and study all this information. It's also, maybe it would also be interesting to answer the question on why is it interesting at all, or what's the purpose of discussing that, you know. So first of all, is it true? Would you relate to that? Is it true that the oversoul is an individualized fractal of God? Is it like, you know, I'm always trying to combine it or to understand these teachings also through what Omnek used to teach. And Omnek always said that when we imagine or think of God as the source of creation, that God loves itself so much, because this is the source of creation, is pure love, pure energy, right? And Omnek always said that because of love, out of love, because it loved itself so much, or it loves itself so much, it wants to continue to exist because it thinks it's so amazing. So it creates out of itself souls and fractals of itself, so that they start their journey in never-ending cycles through the levels of dimensions, through the levels of consciousness, until they finally then make a return their way home. So this is how God experiences itself, and this is how God also expands because of its creations. It's a never-ending process. This is how Omnek explains the creation. So when we now think of the oversoul, Omnek never really made it complicated. You know, she was not specifically talking about oversouls and souls and various incarnations in various costumes and times. So is then the soul that is created out of the source of creation, is it now the oversoul or is it the soul?
Yes, I would say so. I would say so. And that's a good explanation as well by you summarizing Omnek's philosophy. That's very good. And I, as I understand it, each incarnation that we have is as a member of a class, as a school.
Mm-hmm.
And all the people that you know in this lifetime, you've probably known before, or most of the people anyway, that play a significant part in your life, and they're part of the same school. Now, if if you were the Queen of Hearts and I was like a Jack of Spades or something in a card deck, each time we shuffle the deck, we're in a different relationship in that deck to all the other cards. And as we progress with our school through various incarnations, we're guided by we're guided by our superconscious or our oversoul to get through all of these all these experiences that we encounter in the material world until we're perfected. And we may even go to other planets in the material universe as well. And when we're finished with all of these, then we in turn will become incorporated into our oversoul and go on to yet higher realms, lighter densities, as it were, in the universe. Universe itself. So we're all divine sparks. We're all part of God. When I was in the seminary at the Graceland University in Independence, Missouri, in the Community of Christ, we were talking about the Trinity, and I said, "Well, why stop there?" Because we're all created of God's stuff. We all have God within us, and we all have infinite potential. And we need to take the time while we're here to seize the day, so to speak, while we're in the material universe, to learn all we can, to progress and acquire more knowledge and gnosis so we can move on to higher planets and even higher realms, lighter densities, other dimensions, because the universe is really that infinite.
You even mentioned, without that we haven't really said the word yet, but you know what? I just remembered that Omnek always said that souls are created in groups or in families. And some people even talk about certain numbers. Of course, I would not really say that we can name specific numbers, because this is again a 3D concept, counting and everything, numbers. It's more like she always said that souls are created in groups or in families. That means at the same time. It's again a concept, but so in groups, and these are then, like you mentioned, the soulmates, the ones who are traveling in different variations through the incarnations together, and they meet all over again as couples or as brother and sister, siblings, or friends. It can be any kind of constellation that you have a familiarity with, and sometimes you meet a certain person and you have a specific familiarity that you feel instantaneously, that you feel like, well, we just match, right? We get along with each other pretty well, and usually or often these are probably then also the couples that meet, that form families, that have children, or that work together. These kind of relatively well functionable relationships, so to say, when they even sometimes spend the whole life together, are certainly soul mates from the same soul group.
Yes, that's a very good point. And I think a perfect example of soulmates that really were meant to be and that get along quite well is was explained by Howard Menger in his book From Outer Space to You. And I focus on Howard Menger's in the Venus Rising book. I focus on Howard Menger's relationship with Conny Menger, how they got together. She attended one of his flying saucer conferences held on his farm, the Menger Farm in Highbridge, New Jersey. And she felt an instant affinity toward him, and he felt an instant affinity toward her, like like they say, a match made in heaven, or in this case, a match made on Venus, because he was a teacher from Saturn, no, in a Saturnian system known as Sol Dunaro, and he recognized through his higher self that once upon a time that he was instructing at an academy, at a temple of knowledge on Venus, where he met Conny Menger, then who was the sister of the Venusian that he met on the rock, near the apple orchard on the Menger farm back in 1932 when he was 10 years old. And that Venusian told him then that one day he would meet her sister, and they would carry on this work of bringing information about Venus and Venusians to the people on Earth. And so she wrote a book called My Saturnian Lover, and he wrote that book From Outer Space to You. But what I do in the Venus Rising book is I focus on their relationship, romantic and otherwise, to explain what they term their relationship as a natural couple, which is actually one of being true soulmates. But to draw the distinction between soulmates and twin flames, I think that's very important too, because this is yet a much higher aspect of the oversoul. And so on the twin flames, we're dealing with something that's a little bit unusual as far as the various aspects of the oversoul that are existing independently in different times and places, even other different dimensions. But here we're talking about two aspects of an oversoul that are existing simultaneously in the same place and time, and come to an awareness of each other. And when we look at the relationship of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, for example, and I know that beside the Gospels of Thomas and Mary Magdalene that we have published here at Discus, that you're also working on a very special project. And I don't know if you want to say anything about it at this time, but we're going to have more information about that coming out as well. And then you go even further back, you have Sananda and Lady Venus, and the Ascended Masters are the ones that have developed this kind of special relationship. And this is very important as far as the unification of the male and female energies, and in providing celestial guardians and teachers, mentors to us here on Earth. That their unification shows that we can one day be as they are. We one day will be as they are, and they were once as we are now. but they've ascended to being beings of light. And so this is what the whole universe is moving to. And so we have a lot to look forward.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I would like to add some aspects. Of course, when we look at the Howard Menger and Conny Menger story, well, it's from the outside, and we are, of course, the observers. Not really possible to say whether they were soulmates or maybe they were twin flames. I would say it's both possible. And of course, it's also because it doesn't matter, it's just a label in a way, and the labels don't really matter. It's just some spiritual phenomena is not the right word. It's some truth behind it that is just, well, you only know when you know it. You only know when you make the experience. And when you have these kind of offers of concepts that we are now sharing, like the oversoul and the soul families and the soulmates, and maybe the soul group here and the soul group there, and maybe the twin flames, it's something that helps us to recognize ourselves, to realize who we truly are, and to find ourselves also in our relationships, because relationships is connections with others is what life is all about. Nobody is an island. We are all together constantly with each other, and we have difficult relationships, we have loving relationships, we have friendships, we have all kinds of, in Greek, right, there are at least 8 terms for love. Like they also have different terms for time. It's a way more intelligent way of distinguishing that there are variations of love, that there are variations of time. And so having said that,
that's a very important concept, Anja, because we're locked into the perspective of the culture that we're born into.
Yeah.
And certainly like Native Americans and different people from India, they all have different concepts of time and the universe, the creation. And when we can break out of the mold and consider new ideas, this is what's very important. And people probably wondering, if they're wondering what we're doing here, talking about all of this. I mean, this is very, very important because we're teachers. We're bringing gnosis that has been passed down through the wisdom of the ages and connected to our sister planet Venus. And we want people to expand their gnosis and understanding so they could help develop the powers that are latent within them and realize their own full potential and be happy.
We are bringers of truth and bringers of light, and this is how I would put it. Of course, we are just the organs or just our personalities. We are not perfect either. I mean, I'm far beyond being perfect, but I'm in this position. And since we are connected with this Venus information and the Venusian teachings, and it's all about love, and so it's important to talk about also relationships and to talk about connections, to talk about soulmates and soul families and eventually even twin flames, because these are all bringers of love to the planet. And this is why we are born. This is why we are here, to break the patterns that we are society subtly woven into and that we are born into. And this is maybe to wrap this a little bit up or so, also from my personal understanding now, the reason why so many twin flames are incarnated, this is as you already perfectly explained, it's really one soul in two bodies, and they are incarnated at the moment more in a number that's way more than it has been than it happened in the last centuries or even thousands of years, because the vibration of the planet was so low. And twin flame energy is pure unconditional Venusian love energy. So I mean, it's pure soul. It doesn't matter if you call it twin flame or not. You don't have to encounter your twin flame to find soul realization or to find spiritual awakening. There are various avenues of awakening. This is just one avenue of awakening, and it is for some incarnated souls one of their avenues. So this is why they encounter, why they have these experiences. Sometimes it's only in the vision, sometimes they only know, sometimes it's even just an encounter that happens online. And what happens is an activation. It's an activation within the heart, within the soul. It's a soul recognition. And it happens for one's own spiritual awakening. And the spiritual awakening is supposed to happen because we want to bring light and love and truth to the earth, into our world, into our society, for our future, because we have to break the old patterns. We have to break the old belief systems. All these concepts of relationships, of family structures, of, even enforced marriages, or staying in concepts, staying in relationships, which are definitely outdated, which are definitely not healthy anymore, just out of rules and out of systems, and because of what other people say, or because of propriety, when you own a house together and you say, well, I can't get divorced because then we lose our house. All this is based on separation consciousness. So when we are going through the spiritual awakening, no matter whether it's through a near-death experience or an instantaneous enlightenment or a twin flame encounter, whatever it may be, it doesn't matter. We bring through our physical bodies this truth, as this light into our world, so that we break all these structures. It's like, there's God beyond above the clouds, and then there's a cloud fat wall of clouds, and then here's the heart. So when the heart is activated and the third eye is activated and the chakras are getting open and everything, and then there is a connection made between your own inner sun and the sun, which is God. And then this ray breaks through the clouds. And this is what breaks the matrix. And this is what makes everything, what changes the world and our experiences.
Well, thank you, Anja. That was beautifully said. And this is the purpose of all the contactees and their message. Same message. To get this message out, because it's transformative. And it's the real message that's going to save the world. So like we said at the beginning of the show, there's things that may seem small now, but they'll take on a greater importance as time moves on and we actually move into a new and better age for all of humankind.
Exactly, and it happens through us. It happens through us. We are the transformers. We are the transformers, and we are the creators of our world, because we are creative beings, being fractals of God, being souls, oversouls. We are creators. We have the same creative abilities like God has. So as the same way as God has created us, we are creators of our experiences and of our worlds. And so when we awaken to this gnosis, to this knowledge, to this consciousness, this is what causes the ripple effect, right? And this is what transforms everything.
And we want to hear from all of you, to hear your ideas and to hear your concepts and your take on these things, as well as your own experiences. These are valuable to us, valuable to you, and valuable to all of the viewers of this program. And just contact us through the Venus Spirit website. And if you have any questions, we'll be happy to go over them with you and see if we could find some answers.
That's the perfect word. And please give us, you can also write your comments and your questions in the comments on YouTube, or send an email if you have anything that you would like to share with us. So I thank you very much, Ray, for your time again with me here.
Oh, thank you, Anja. It's always a privilege to be with you.
May the universal love and blessings be. See you next time, my friend. Bye-bye.
Bless.